Of course, as we enter Women's Month, we dedicate this episode of ongoing features to women that are making a change in the infrastructure sector. And no one knows this department better than Advocate Chantal Smith, who is the HOD, the head of department for the Department of Infrastructure in the Western Cape. Advocate Smith, good day. Thank you so much for making time for us.
Good day, and thank you very much for having me on the show.
It's an absolute pleasure. As a legal professional, of course, with a legal background, or a professional with a legal background, how have you blended these two sort of experiences and expertise? And please take us through your journey as an advocate and how, sort of now being the HOD of the Department of Infrastructure.
Thank you very much. So I studied at the University of the Western Cape. My majors were actually in contract law and commercial law. And then I started at the Provincial Treasury in 1999, and I thought it was quite a perfect fit, working with the supply chain and the acquisitions or procurement done by the Western Cape Tender Board at the time. I then did a short stint, of course, at Legal Services, deployed to the Department of Health, where I worked in the business unit, also with their major contracts. And thereafter, I applied as the head of supply chain in the then Department of Transport and Public Works, which is now the Department of Infrastructure. I set up the supply chain unit in the department, wrote the system for the department, put in place the governance as far as procurement is concerned, and I can say that has yielded for us 12 consecutive clean audits, but not just clean audits dedicated and positioned to ensure service delivery. So for me, that was the perfect fit. I then became the CFO of the Department of Transport and Public Works, and 5 years later, the head of department.
Fantastic. Glad to know that you are also an alumni of the University of the Western Cape. It makes me feel a little bit more comfortable knowing that there's at least some commonalities between us. Give us, of course, an overview of the work of your department and what the work that the department has sort of done to address gender imbalances in the infrastructure sector within government.
So the Department of Infrastructure provides training and mentoring support to emerging contractors, which include women-led construction companies. And I can say that over the years, these companies have grown from your grade 1 startup construction companies to grade 7 contractors that are able to then also employ subcontractors and grow other women's subcontracting companies. We also provide short skills programs to introduce women and youth to construction-related trades, such as bricklaying, carpentry, and plumbing, to name but a few. There are 12-month learnership opportunities in various construction-related trades. In 24-25 financial year, we had 115 women from across the Western Cape participate on the learnership program. We have a 3-year apprenticeship program that had 82 women participating in learning about trades such as electrical, plumbing, air conditioning, and refrigeration. In February of 2025, the department piloted a work-based program under the EPWP, or Expanded Public Works Program, where 155 women received an opportunity to earn a stipend and work in various environmental and construction-related services in and around the Central Karoo. When it comes to empowering women in infrastructure with the right skills and support, what strategies and programs we've put in place is also to ensure that we have a professional development program that's called Masaki Sizwe. And that's our bursary program. It trains and supports young women to study and become professional in the built environment. Currently, the department supports 79 women who are studying things such as civil engineering, mechanical engineering, quantity surveying, and architecture. And that's just to name a couple of the programs that we've put in place over the years.
Now, this department generally and sort of traditionally, we talk about infrastructure, we talk about public works and transport, very male-dominated roles. Tell us then about, how it's been like for you to run a department that's, sort of been historically dominated by males.
So I think it comes probably from a position of comfort. I was comfortable in my own skin. Supply chain came naturally to me because contract law and commercial law was what I studied, and I designed the system. So really, for me, it was about being comfortable with what it is that I had to do in the department. And of course, supply chain was the center that allowed everything else to happen, infrastructure delivery to happen. And you learn the language from a supply chain point of view into a infrastructure delivery kind of context. And it made it easier for me to then connect with your professionals, such as your engineers, your quantity surveyors, your architects, and the like. Remembering that I put the system in place that makes them, or that enables what it is that they are supposed to deliver. And I think just setting up the team around me as well has been a privilege because, of course, when I came to the department, it was around about the time that we abolished the tender boards and that we moved into a place where every accounting officer had to set up their own systems in order to do the procurement and the delivery. So from that point of view, it was a fresh start. It was also something where we could build what is needed from a woman's perspective. And for me, I think that from a woman's perspective, we look at things different. We are problem solvers. We find solutions. We make things work. And most of all, we understand what it is that we're there to do. So I think we can move past the complexities and past the bureaucracy, if you would like to call it that, and say, what are we here to do? What are we here to deliver? And that has been part of what I aim to do in the department.
Yeah. Now, the Western Cape province is, of course, often commended for its infrastructure. So tell us, in your view, sort of the true state of the Western Cape's infrastructure, and perhaps also reflect on some of the key developments that are either ongoing or in the pipeline.
Thank you very much. So you'd remember that since 2023, we had quite a number of floods that has destroyed vast stretches of our roads network. In December of 2023, we required about 750 million rand just to fix 70 to 80% of our road network. Right now, at this particular point in time, and the department annually, from a roads point of view, produces what is called the Roads Asset Management Plan. And right now, we sit, for example, with a 32 billion rand backlog in terms of roads maintenance. We're never going to get enough money. The fiscus doesn't have the money. The same holds true from the education portfolio, the health portfolio, the general infrastructure portfolio, and of course, the human settlements portfolio. We are trying our best to put the money into maintenance as opposed to new, but with each portfolio, it demands a different type of solution, and it also demands a different type of delivery. And from that point of view, just to say that, yes, the infrastructure are deteriorating across the portfolio, but the department is committed to the maintenance that we can do and that we can afford. What is in the pipeline is actually for us build on the realization that government has run out of money. And for that reason, we are looking at partnerships, focusing on finding alternative and blended financing. And that we believe is the answer for us to start addressing the backlog as far as infrastructure is concerned, as well as the demand for new infrastructure.
Yeah. So when it comes to empowering women in infrastructure, of course, with the right skills and support, what strategies and programs have your department put in place and implemented? You mentioned, of course, the Masaki Sizwe bursary program as well. What else?
So I've given you some of the training solutions, but just to say, when it comes to our recruitment and selection, we already stand at a 53% achievement against a target of 50% in terms of women in management positions in the department. What this means is that literally the department put in place mentoring and coaching. We make sure that when women are appointed, they have the kind of support. We run the HOD principles programs where we look at targeted interventions for women, like I've mentioned earlier on. These interventions didn't just come out of a tick box exercise or that these are the prerequisites. It is in terms of saying, how do we build women from the inside so that they can actually fill the positions from a management point of view. So this for us is a journey. And everybody that is appointed, we are trying to answer the question of how do we nurture women through the department in order for them to take up the leadership position. Because we do believe that we bring something different to the department.
Yeah, no, you certainly do. Lastly, then, what's your message to the young women out there that have just started, perhaps graduated in the infrastructure space, be it through engineering or construction?
So probably two things. The first one is you are not alone. There are women in management positions in the department that's there to support you, to uplift you, and to make sure that you can do this. And secondly, don't be afraid to ask. We learn by asking help. We learn by helping each other and lifting each other up. And so for me, there's nothing that a man can do that women can't in the infrastructure space. And if anything, your own journey becomes the survival kit for other women. Thank you.
Yeah. Advocate, of course, I did say that it was the last one, but there's just one more. We, of course, at Conradi Park today, and a lot of what we see here it would have been sort of under your purview, and we also know from previous discussions with the Minister around some of the progress made here in terms of giving access and opportunities to women and females. When you see the progress of this particular park and this particular space, your reflections?
So, when you see the actual product being delivered, the first thing that comes to mind are those members of staff, women, behind the scenes, the ones that puts the tenders in place, the ones that make sure that projects like this can come to life. So apart from just the contractors that's here today, there's also in the background the teams, of which most of them were women, that pulled together the strings, that made sure that this is actually a reality. And so for me, it's about how women informs the entire system and not just, the ultimate product. That's important. But as far as this development is concerned, it's also about the upstream and downstream benefits, not just for the contractors that are here today, but for the women that would occupy their houses, for the women that would teach the kids, for the grannies that walks the kids to school, that has a safe space where they can live and where they can go to the shop. And so for me, it's also about how do we think about the projects when we design them, and what does it mean from a woman's perspective, looking at a project like Conradi and say, how do we pull all of this together? Because I do believe women is about community. Yeah. For me, it's much broader than just, seeing the commercial aspects, the hard infrastructure. And that's part of what the department does. I mean, when I ask myself, so how do we do things around here? We have a corporate social investment strategy in the department where members of staff actually every month take up some kind of project, whether it's in a school where kids don't have school shoes or stationery, or whether we go to a place where you have children's home that don't have the clothes and the blankets or whatever it is. And staff come up and they literally donate stuff. And for me, this is the soft part about the hard infrastructure, is how do we leverage the infrastructure from a woman's point of view and say infrastructure is much more than just brick and mortar. We can also use it to connect communities, to create the sense of community. And how do we do that? Even through projects like this.
And that's arguably what one aspect or element of infrastructure that we don't often speak about.
Correct.
For now, though, Advocate Chantal Smith, the Head of Department for the Department of Infrastructure, thank you so much for your time today and everything of the best with the upcoming initiatives and projects.
Thank you very much.
Of course, you can engage with us on the WhatsApp line. And again, send through your questions or your thoughts on the number 0829 913 913. So, Advocate, Thank you once again for your time and everything the best for the projects and the initiatives that you and your department are currently engaged with. You can, of course, engage with us throughout the remainder of today's edition of Community Matters. Of course, this is episode 4. Contact us on 0829 913 913. Send through your text messages, whether there are questions or comments. And, of course, we'll pass that along to the Minister to have him answer those questions for you.
So one of the key issues, I think, for me is its character. Because, you get into a workplace, yes, you might be qualified, but you don't have the experience, you don't have the know-how. And this is one of the challenges that I see with young people these days, that they don't want to work their way up. So for me to be able to learn, you need to look at whatever avenue that presents itself. In fact, you look for that learning. If you have to make coffee, and while you're making coffee for that manager, for that person that you're going to glean and get information from and get the knowledge from, do that. Because as you give them the coffee, you get a chance to speak to them. If you have to have a conversation with the lady that cleans this office, who knows what's happening in this place, who knows how things have been done, because we tend to underestimate the helping staff. So that to me talks to humility. But just interestingly, I work with a team of 11 people. Only one man. There's only one male in that team of 11 people, and those people are responsible for big developments like this. We're working on a pipeline of bigger projects, including this one in Conradi. And I think what also assisted me is having women that have walked this route, besides the two women that I've spoken about, my supervisor and the CEO. But I had, as a town planner, I had, 2 African women town planners who were the very first town planners, African town planners in South Africa. So, and people that I knew, people that I could look up to. So it was very important to actually have role models, people that have walked, this route that I was starting to walk. And I still have contact with them even today, and they still are my role models even today.
Yeah. What informs the department's decision in identifying developments, and how does the department sort of formulate its priorities annually?
Yeah, so we are working on a portfolio of pipeline projects. And we're doing that simply because we want to create confidence from the communities that Conradi is just not, a sort of once-off kind of development. But at the same time, we're also wanting to create investor confidence, because projects like this, we don't develop them ourselves as government. So the private sector has to have the funding and the appetite to be able to do this. And for them to do that, there has to be a pipeline of projects, because there's lots of investment that comes into play. So we now have a pipeline of the projects that we want to develop, and that is focused on mixed use, that is focused on mixed income development. And I think one of the challenges that we had before was that it was almost like one project and then there was nothing, and one project there was nothing. But given that the need for affordable housing, given the need for spatial transformation in government to really, be showing up as far as those are concerned, we now, with our leadership, have a concerted effort and a deliberate effort to establish that pipeline, and we are pushing so that we're able to resource it both financially as well as human resource, and be able to deliver projects like this.
Yeah. I'm wondering then, with the challenges of that you just touched on now, how much pressure does this put on your unit of economic hub in terms of planning and catching up with infrastructure development here in the Western Cape?
Sure, it's a lot. It's a lot.
I can tell by your reaction.
Look, we've a staff of 11, and out of the staff of 11, only 5 are technical professionals, so the other staff is support staff. And as I said, we've got a pipeline currently of 10 projects, which the minister told us in February that 5 of them have to be out to the market in this financial year. We're also going now across the province, looking at assessing other properties that we'll bring into the pipeline. But fortunately, we work with consultants, we work with transactional advisors, so we're able to outsource some of the competencies that we don't have, and people that are very experienced in the mixed use, because mixed use and mixed income developments are not. They're quite complicated, as you can see. What's happening here in Conrad is just not your normal commercial or not your normal housing developments.
Yeah. Now, in the Western Cape in particular, the historical sort of apartheid spatial planning, like in many other parts of the country, has, of course, been documented quite extensively. And I guess from your perspective within the Economic Hub, how much effort is being placed on the department, or placed by the department rather, to address this particular issue? And on new housing developments like Conradi, is this sort of the solution to that?
Look, for a town planner, it's a dream, because you've got a minister and the HOD that are quite passionate and are very supportive. I left town planning about probably 20 years ago because in my mind, I really could not, be pushing and implementing special segregation. I came back to town planning after Spluma, and now where we actually can have developments like this. So from the department, we have the support for the work that we do. In fact, we are being pushed. Our minister, as you know, is very committed to spatial integration, and I think as the Premier in the Western Cape government as a whole, given the projects that we're busy with. I mean, if you're looking, and it's not just about integration, it's about spatial justice. It's about dignity. I mean, if you go out here, you've got people that are living that probably never would thought that they could live in an environment where they share the playground with, the open higher income kind of residential estates that exist. We're talking about safety and safe neighborhoods. I mean, you walk around here, you can see the level of comfort around people moving. So we're creating different and integrated communities. And yes, I would say yes, developments like Conradi are part of the solution, not all, because you cannot replicate Conradi in all the properties. For instance, some of the properties that we're busy with, even in the CBD, not all of them can accommodate all the mixed income housing options, but they can accommodate some. So it differs per property, it differs per site. It's not a one solution fits everything. But this, of course, is especially for bigger land parcels. This kind of development as Conradi is an option for us.
Yeah, the country, of course, will be hosting the G20 summit later this year. And I'm wondering what infrastructure opportunities you see the department being able to leverage from South Africa's hosting of the G20 summit.
Okay, so the Department of Infrastructure is currently developing a pipeline, an infrastructure pipeline. Now, this is a pipeline of infrastructure projects within the Western Cape province, not just the DOI projects, including municipalities. Talk about bulk infrastructure, dams, water, energy, roads, and the like. So that pipeline is the pipeline that the Western Cape government will be taking to such the investor conference as well as the G20 conference. And of course, my 10 projects are also part of that pipeline. So I'm hoping, for me, is hoping to have investors and developers that would partake, because if there's no appetite, then there's no development like this. Like I said, that we don't develop ourselves. We expect developers, and if developers cannot raise funding for such developments, then there's no development.
Yeah, no, certainly. Before we wrap today, I've been asking, asked Advocate Chantal earlier the same question. When you see the progress that has been made, you see, of course, that some of the units here have already been occupied. Having been a part of putting this particular project together here at Conradi Park, what your sort of reflections are?
Look, I think it's very humbling. It's very humbling when you see what this place used to be and what it is now. I mean, when we were driving in earlier, I saw a few old ladies that were standing out there, and I asked, "Is there bingo?" And it's like, "Yeah, there's bingo on Wednesdays." Mm-hmm. So it's just the how we've been able with our partners, the city, the developer, and everybody that's been involved in this process to be able to create this community. I mean, it's a safe community. It's a community that's got mixed, it's mixed race, mixed gender, mixed age, mixed everything, mixed income, mixed everything. And with the development like behind us, you can see there's a shopping center that is going to be built. So you don't have to even leave where you go to actually go and buy and also maybe even work. We are going to be, there's going also to be 2 schools in this development. So you don't even have to go far for your children to be able to go to school. I think for me, when you look at a project like this, a development like this, it's what legacies are built on. It's something that when you sort of retire, if there's such thing as retirement these days, you can look back and say, look what this team has done under the leadership that we've had, the past leadership and the current leadership.
And you would have had, a part to play in
Oh,
this.
absolutely. I think that's one of the things I tell my team that I work with. I said to them, you're creating legacies. Yeah. Just remember that you are creating legacies not only for you, but for the people that are going to be living in those places. This is, you're leaving a mark that you can never take away, and this is something that you've created. It's like birthing a baby, so to speak, because you are creating this from scratch. There's nothing, and then you end up with what you see now.
And of course, reflecting then on the earlier point around spatial planning and apartheid spatial planning, it's a different legacy. It's a new legacy.
Absolutely. And I mean, this is and there's still. And everybody in other developments, when we talk about mixed use, mixed income, there's still a push, there's still a little bit of NIMBYism. And we always say to people, but go see in Conradi and, go see what's happening. And there's this notion that, for instance, social housing depreciates property values. And it's not true. It doesn't. And you can see what's happening here in Conradi. So slowly we're getting people to understand that we can all live together. We can all be a community, living in a dignified space like this.
Yeah. Before I let you go, for young female student who's perhaps watching this or listening to us right now, and wants to be where you are one day, what advice should you have for them?
Maybe at high school, I would say they must be curious. They must do as much research as possible about what it is that they want. Because if you're talking about property development and infrastructure development, it's a very wide field. So you need to know what it is that you're wanting to do. I'm a town planner. You might have a QS. You might actually even have a lawyer. You might have an environmentalist. You might have a cultural person. So it depends on what is it that you want. So be curious. Attend if there's your career days. Go look at career days. Speak to people. If there's a private company in your neighborhood that's involved, go there. If there's still the Take a Girl to Work kind of initiatives, do that. So just be curious so that you can master as much knowledge as you can, and that knowledge will assist you in identifying which stream you want to follow. And then once you get into the workplace as a junior professional, as I said, show up. Be the person who wants to learn. Ask questions. Don't sit in the corner. Don't do the bare minimum that you say, look, I'm paid only to do A, B, C, D. Go the extra mile, because that's the only way that you're going to learn. Keep on learning. If you have an opportunity to train, to develop yourself, to develop your skills, because things change every time. So you need to always be on par with what is happening, the best practice. And then I cannot stress your character. Your character, for me, character of a person is quite important. So how you show up in a place. Are you diligent? Are you taking your work seriously? Are you showing up? Those things, to me, they matter quite a lot, more than the intellect, more than your skill, more than everything, because how you show up will then get you to where you want him to be. And then I don't like saying role models, but have people that you look up to. that can assist you, that can pave a way for you, that you can ask from people that have actually walked, this road, that you can look and see that and then be able to engage with them and able to approach to say, look, I'm at this point, how do I do this? Or this is happening, how do I do this? And if you do that, I mean, it's a very interesting, kind of field. The one thing I like about it is that, well, now I'm almost endorsed. But one of the things that when I decided on this career, I had two things. One was that I wanted a job where I'm not going to wear stockings. Females will know, will understand. And then the second criteria was that I'm never going to be inside.
Yeah.
And I spent more than half of my career actually outside. That's when I started wearing glasses because the sun was just too much. So for me, it's understanding who you are and what it is that you want. You can be. I mean, if you like law, you can be a lawyer in the space. So it's got a lot of things or a lot of fields within it that you can participate. You just need to know what it is.
Yeah. And now you can serve as a role model for some other young girls across the province and across the country, perhaps, who also are perhaps looking at this as a career option.
Well, hopefully I can. We usually do take interns. I do have my 4 kids in the office, so I try.
Yeah. Well, Ms. Lindelwa Mabuntane, thank you so much for your time today. Everything of the best with this and other projects. We look forward to possibly chatting to you again and hearing a bit more about those other 10 initiatives that you have ongoing. For now, though, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, and thanks for having me.
As we celebrate Women's Month, we invite especially women to share their own experiences of empowerment paths in the workplace. You can also engage with us throughout the course of the show on the number 0829 913 913 to have the Minister and his team. And of course, we want you, the listener, to drive this particular conversation. So that number again, 0829 913 913. We are now joined by the Minister of Infrastructure in the Western Cape, Minister Tertuis Simmers. Minister, good day.
Hi, good day, and good day to all of our listeners, seeing that we are simulcasting to multiple radio stations across the province, but also those who have been following us via podcasts from around the world and are tuned in to seeing the future shape in front of them in the Western Cape.
Now, today we are coming to you live from Conradi Park, which is one of the developments that you've been talking about through the first 3 episodes. And, of course, for our viewers who are watching this on the various social media platforms, that see behind us some of the development and some of the work that's been ongoing. Just looking at what you're seeing behind you, Minister, your reflections.
Well, firstly, if you look at Conradi Park, we need to understand that the bulk of the planning, the architecture work, engineering work, even as far as contractors and subcontractors are all female. So it's quite significant that within Women's Month, in brick and mortar, even behind me, what you are seeing, we can showcase the ability of women to enter a male-dominated space, showcase what they can do, but also contribute to the future of how the Western Cape will look. In Conradi Park is the blueprint of where we seek to integrate different communities. We also seek to address how the future of the Western Cape will look. But ultimately, women is also at the core of this provincial government. But I believe my department showcases it with 14 out of 23. That's more than 50% of my senior management team or leadership positions are held by very competent, strong-willed, and yes, focused women. It's always a joy to be around them. And I've learned that with these 14 strong-willed, focused women by my side, we have the ability to get diverse perspectives from them because they have a different world outlook. We have the ability to ensure stronger governance. We have now had consecutive clean audits under the leadership of my HOD. But as well, as we address gender inequalities, Conradi Park also has provided different empowerment programs, skills programs, where we not only empower previously disadvantaged communities or groups, but also women in the sector. And it's great to have seen so many of them step up and own the space. And Conradi Park thus brings to life what we envision, where we can actually have more women in a male-dominated sector. And Women's Month and where we are quite speaks to that.
Yeah, certainly. You mentioned, of course, also that It was in January that yourself and the Premier was here to do the sod turning, and just looking behind us, the progress has been really fantastic thus far.
Well, indeed, I have a female HOD at the helm and the team, and you'll engage two of her and then one other. But we need to understand that what you see behind me is driven by, among others, my senior team, together with the developer and the contractors and subcontractors. Again, a fair component of them are actually females on the site.
That's fantastic. Now, Minister, of course, we heard from the HOD and from the acting Chief Director in the Economic Hub Unit about some of the great work and the renewed focus on delivering quality basic services. Now, from a leadership point of view, what do you think you're doing right in enabling the environment for women to thrive in your department in particular?
Well, first and foremost, and again, our department, I think if you compare it to the rest of our other sister departments, we actually lead the way in so many platforms. We have created skills programs and skills development programs, but also general programs which focuses on empowering our women, which are focused on women who seek to come into a very male-dominated sector, but creating the space and environment for them. So, that enables that. The fact that more than 50% of my senior management team are female, but they've got a wealth of experience between all of them. So they do give a different approach to how we focus on these programs, how we reach these objectives and outcomes. It's realistic. So it's not just about bean counting for us. It's what quality do we actually get at the end of what we seek to obtain through our various programs. And I'm very proud of the progress that the team has made. We have managed to address gender inequalities within our department. We now seek to do it amongst our rank and file in the rest of the department and even on our project sites. And I must also applaud, our private sector partners which have come on board, and we are seeing more and more females actually on these sites. Many of them are embarking through our encouragement and through our empowerment programs to participate in bricklaying, in electrician work, in plumbers. And even on the Conradi site, an entire block here was done literally by a female contractor, female subcontractor, and I can go on and on and on. And all of this is made possible by how we as a team actually cultivate and create a space for that to happen.
Now, from a regulatory point of view, we've recently, of course, learned about the appointment of Mrs. Anita Arendse as the first female chairperson to lead the Rental Housing Tribunal. How does that sort of align with the department's objectives in as far as gender parity is concerned?
Well, firstly, we are investing in our women, but not just, again, a bean counting exercise for me and my department. It is to ensure it is a qualitative addition to our focus on female empowerment. Now, you spoke of Ms. Anita Arendse, who's the first female chairperson of the Rental Housing Tribunal, but again, she comes with a wealth of experience. She's actually a qualified attorney and conveyancer. Mm-hmm. She used to be a presiding officer at the Western Cape Legal Authority. So she does have a fair understanding of dealing with very difficult individuals in that regard as well. But she also was a prosecutor at the Public Protector's Office. So competency linked with experience, but also to deal with very difficult community members at times. Sometimes it's the tenant that's difficult. Sometimes it's the landlord that's difficult, if I understand her correctly. But again, these appointments speak to our commitment, not just in terms of quantity, but appointing quality individuals, which we believe will help with the transformation and speak to also gender equality across a very male-dominated sector.
Mm-hmm. Now, Minister, lastly, how does your department sort of view Women's Month within the context of women's participation in key infrastructure sectors? You've, of course, touched on, the work here and the progress made here at Conradi, but surely, and obviously beyond that as well.
Well, indeed, Women's Month, and it's not just Women's Day, but Women's Month for me and my team. We focus on, firstly, how we have managed to get females in a very male-dominated sector in qualitative outputs, not quantitative outputs, and how these women have matured and showcased leadership, not just in my department. We have close to 1,000 projects across the Western Cape. In each one of those projects, you are bound to find a female engineer, a female architect, a female town planner. If you go to our roads division, I even bumped into a female machine operator during some of my site visits prior to coming here today. But we also have in human settlements, led by a woman, Ms. Labika Skierman, who is our Deputy Director General. But again, it's ensuring that housing provision also focuses on, most of the cases, the bulk of our qualifying beneficiaries tends to be female-headed households, to ensure that through that we transfer ownership. Ownership restores dignity and a sense of belonging for a lot of females still in our community, but also endowing upon them responsibility. That women actually have responsibility in our communities as well, but also how we integrate women into all of our planning, again through the lens of human settlements, because most of our households are still headed up by females across the Western Cape. No matter where you go, it's still a living reality. In the department of DDAT, again, we have individuals who are focusing on how do we package our programs and future pipeline, which is around about worth 200 billion as we sit here, towards 2050. How many females do we see as part of the true beneficiaries of true empowerment? And that is only through these various projects of ours. But again, I also want to use this platform today. It's Women's Month. Again, it's not just Women's Day. It's not a one-hit wonder thing for me and my team. It's now time that the private sector step up. My department and I, we are showcasing, we have faith in the ability of females in a very male-dominated sector. But now it's time that the private sector together partner with us to take gender equality seriously. But above all, to remember, Women's Day is not just supposed to be one day. Every day of the year should be a Women's Day. We must celebrate the courage, the strength, but also the ability of women to step up, to own their space in a sector which is currently male-dominated. But believe me, by 2050, I do believe we will see a lot more women leading the charge, like my HOD and a team are assisting me as we lead the charge to shape that 2050 that we all envision.
Yeah. Minister, thank you so much for your time today, and thank you so much for having us here at Koneradi Park. It's been really wonderful to see the progress made by your department, and I think we also look forward to perhaps going to visit some more of these sort of projects that your department is responsible for, and giving our viewers and our listeners a sense as to tangibly what the realities of the work that you and the Department of Infrastructure does. So thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you, and again, thank you for this opportunity to showcase what you and I have been talking about in previous shows, in brick and mortar, tangibly the change that is possible if we work together.
Certainly. You can, of course, engage with the Minister through social media platforms by visiting Minister Tertuis Simmers on X and using the @MIN_T Simmers, that's SIMMERS, and then using the hashtag Community Matters. Of course, you can continue engaging with us on the WhatsApp line on 0829 913 913.